the space on the page wherein there is nothing there. Okay, this is a very important dynamic to understand. Once you really start to key in into these things, like you can really start to pick up subliminals a lot easier. There's different forms of subliminals too. Sometimes it can be embeds. It can be it may be letters. Sometimes it may be a symbol. That's why we have to understand symbolism. Take a look at the negative space. Okay, for those of y'all who do not see the subliminal here, if you look into the negative space, so what that means is the area, since this is on a white page, right? There's what, 4 flowers here. There's also, the stems to the flowers. There's also a bee here. There's also it looks like some kind of a bug flying across from this leaf over to this leaf, right? So we see all these things here. So wherever you see something, that is what we would call positive space, meaning that there is something actually there. Okay, that means that there is something that is written there. There is something that is visible. There is artwork. There is something there. But then in the negative space, that just simply means the area where there is nothing that is there, right? So in this case, in that it's a white, background, the negative space would be anything that is white. Okay. Now, if it was a black background, you would say anything that is black, right? But what we're specifically looking for is the space where there is nothing present. Now, I want you to take a moment just to look through the space on this page where there's nothing present, and then see if you see the subliminal. Okay, now, you may still not see the subliminal. Some of you may see it, okay? But I just want to point out a couple of things before I actually show it to you, right? There are 4 flowers here, right? We see those clearly, right? I already gave reference to the bee down here, and then that bug that looks like it's jumping from this branch or this leaf over to this leaf. I mean, remember how we talked about this in part 1, how an image can tell it can tell you a lot of things. There's so much that can be inside of an image or a picture. It speaks 1,000 words, right? We talked about this. It tells it can tell a wonderful tale, right? There's so much information that we can gather. So we can be very specific. We can say that, okay, there's 4 different flowers, and the one on the left here, all the way on the left, the petals are pinkish, light pinkish. The one that's next to it is yellow. The one that's next to it is a little bit of a darker pink, maybe a reddish color. The one over next to that is more of a purplish color. I mean, we can get even more specific. We can say that, the first one has branches that are extending out a little bit further and wrapping around the second one. We can give all these different references. We already gave references to the bee. We also talked about that other bug there that looks like it's jumped from one leaf to the other. But then we can also say, if we look at the roots, it looks like the roots to this one is down here, the roots to this one is here, the roots to this one is here, and there's some grass, right? So we can identify all these different things. Now, normally we may not necessarily get that critical, or we may not necessarily be that vigilant in terms of looking for everything that's on the page. In many cases, we may look just very quickly, and then we move on to looking at something else. But in this case, it's important that we're very specific. How many of you noticed the blue bird? Yeah, there's a blue bird there, right? Now, that's not necessarily subliminal, but some of you may not even have noticed that. Now, even if you took some time to look at this picture over and over again, you may still not notice that little bird, but it's there, right? There's a blue bird. Now, from now on, you're going to see that bird. You'll see all the different elements that we've identified. Remember, we talked about this in part 1, how to be able to identify a previously undefined element. Once you define it consciously, it's there. And once it's defined, no matter, you can come back a week later, you can come back a month later, you can come back a year later, and you'll still have that definition. You'll still be able to see it. Now, with the actual subliminal, I want to go ahead and show it to you. If you look in the negative space towards the bottom portion of each one of these flowers near the roots, you will see letters, and there are 3 letters here, right, near the roots. So over here, there is an S. Can you see it? Next to that, and again, this is in the negative space, there is an E. You see that? Isn't that interesting? And then next to that, there is an X, right? Again, it's in a negative space. Can you see that one? Okay, so that's the subliminal. It's S-E-X, sex. That's all. That's what it is. It was always there, right? Consciously, you may not have picked it up when you were looking at it, but your subconscious mind actually picks up everything. Now, what happens is once you actually identify it consciously, From now on, whenever you come back to this picture, you're going to see the subliminal.